Yo, what is up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're doing well. It is your boy burstzgyt back here, and we're back for one of the first reviews in a while on this channel. So it may be a little bumpy, but we're gonna get right on the road talking about this. So if you didn't know, TonsenArtToys was developing a Kid Buu figure unlike anything you've seen so far. We've got the Dragon Stars, and that's really it at this point. And here we have basically something on the level of an shfiguarts. And man, let me tell you, I just think it's incredible that he took this project on and mass produced it. We're gonna get right into talking about the figure. Let me get the box really quickly so you can see it in all its glory. So we have version B. Version A I did order. It just is through Omnimay, so it's gonna take a little bit extra time, but if you're trying to get this figure now in your hands, AliExpress stores do have stock. I got this one off of Figure Model Store. Again, do your research, look at reviews if you don't feel comfortable buying from those stores. And yeah, let's jump straight into the review. Let me grab the figure. All right, and there he is. Now, if you're wondering, this version is basically based on the manga, so you'll see that his hands don't really have full fingers. It's kind of just little, it's like putty. It's not even a full fist. But yeah, it's still cool overall. And the manga variant does have more brighter colors, so you'll see a brighter yellow and more of a kind of saturated pinkish color here. Whereas the anime variant of it obviously looks like the anime. It has more gold colors along the belt and whatnot. But yeah, so design-wise, let's look at this thing. Now, he did revise the figure. Originally, it didn't have kind of these extra muscles or muscular definition on the back, I believe. That was one reason he did delay it further, along with just, I think, general improvements. But I mean, I think it did help in the long run. He looks just really toned and just, geez, man, he's just yoked out of his mind for such a small character. It's pretty insane. The level of details across the figure is just actually really amazing. Tonsen has been, part of the game in terms of third-party products for a while now, and his products usually are very good. Design-wise, he has a really high quality in terms of what he aims for, and that is one reason why I was never really worried about the figure necessarily, especially with the design of it, just because I knew he was taking from source material and really looking at it and seeing what he could do to make it, a physical figure. Also, for context, he did work with Black Hole Toys on this figure, so to what capacity that is, I'm not entirely sure. But a lot of the modeling and what we've seen so far from the very beginning, like the inside structure and all that, I believe came strictly from Tonsen. But again, I don't know to what degree Black Hole Toys worked with him on this for it. Now, besides that, again, detail-wise, I mean, the other faceplate, or head sculpts, I should say, since there are no faceplates, they also look very detailed. And again, manga variant. This is a manga variant, so they're going to look vastly different from the anime variants. So very quickly, let's just go over the accessories, and then we'll get into the articulation of the fig, which I think is going to hold the most big topic of the video. So be right back. Alright, so first things first, let's talk about one of the effect pieces. Now, between version A and B, there are two different effect pieces. Here we have kind of like a scatter shot of Energy Blast. I'm sure there's an official name for it, but at this time, I just don't remember off the top of my head. In post, if I remember to, I'll put the name or something like that just to remind you what it is. But it does feel very like plasticky, which I'm perfectly fine with because I don't really want to worry about this breaking. So he can actually hold this relatively well without the stand, but there is a hole right here. And similar to Beast Gohan, they gave you a stand here, which you can just peg in right here into the hole, snaps, and then you find the hole here. And assuming that this isn't gonna break as I'm trying to put it in here, you just put some force and it should get in there like so. There we go. But I mean, I feel like I don't need it necessarily. Now that may depend on how the figure holds up over time, if it gets loose in the arms, whatnot. But so far, it was strong enough to hold this. But yeah, the other one has kind of more like a key ball effect. And that one literally is from Dragon Stars, just kind of copy pasted into a purple tone, which is fine for the most part. But yeah, so let's move on. In terms of the hands, as you can see, like I said, this is the manga variant, so the hands are going to be relatively pretty simple. You've got your key blast hands, kind of like this, a little bit kind of a pointing hand, another pointing hand. They're all pointing in some way or fashion just because he doesn't actually really have fingers drawn in this version. So if you want those more defined fingers in your hands, I mean, go for the version A. But I mean, these are really comedic and just, they really sell the look for that design. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing too crazy about these. So let's get into the additional bonus piece here, as well as the other head sculpts. So both figures do get this, I don't even know what to call this, but this, I'm going to call it the taunting piece. Both of them get this. Obviously, each one has a different kind of layout in terms of the colors, but they do function basically the same. So you do have to get the figure, and you actually take it off here at the top. So it isn't actually difficult to take this apart, and you won't have to worry about feeling like it's gonna break. It's pretty soft, and I'm maybe not using the best description there, but it's not like anything super difficult or crazy to take it off, or it feels really rough inside. I don't know. It's very soft, like the texture of the figure and whatnot. Yeah, it's just that simple. You put it on there, and you still have free movement of the arms. And on camera, it may not look the best in terms of the colors matching, but I mean, in person, not looking at the camera, it looks just fine to me. But yeah, it's a very funny piece. Seeing him model this in not real time, but seeing him actually make post about it prior, just I was very excited for this. And we haven't really seen anybody with those bonus accessories like the 2 extra head sculpts that he showed, but I'm assuming people have them. I just haven't seen them posted yet. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, so let me showcase the other heads, and then we'll get into the articulation of this guy. So first things first, we have the stern expression here. Honestly, that's really not too bad at all. The eyes with the red for the iris there, I guess you could say. I don't know what to call that, I'm sorry. You can kind of see it. On camera, again, this may not be the best in terms of quality, but they do look good here. Here we have his gigantic mouth screaming. Very good detail. And I'd have to say, between these and the Buu Tanks kit he did, I mean, just even more impressive at this point. I mean, it looks awesome. And I can't wait to see how the version A looks in hand as well, because I like those colors more, personally. That's just me. But seeing these here, the manga is just, it looks great. Phenomenal. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, it looks really good. All right, here we've got kind of a taunting face as well, with him sticking his tongue out and pulling his eyes down, or eyelids down. All right, so we have run into one issue here on camera. Now, this particular head sculpt was pretty tight, getting into the whole pause, but luckily I do have some tweezers on hand, so for you it's gonna be a second, but for me, I'm gonna have to try fishing this out or set it in some hot water so it loosely pops out. But this can happen. If it feels too tight, probably just put some hot water over the peg for a little bit, or over the head sculpt for a little bit, just so you don't run into this issue in case you don't have utensils where you can take it out. All right, here we have our kind of laughing expression. This one looks pretty close under the neck, so I'm not sure if it's kind of like he's very, like, I don't know how to describe it, but if you can see what I mean, he's just very, I don't know what to call that, man. Like no neck Ed, I guess, but I don't know if that's intentional or not. I have to go back and see if there's scenes where he's like that. But it does kind of look a little weird, especially, you know, again, once we get into the articulation of it, you'll see kind of what I mean with articulation here, because there's not a lot of movement in terms of up and down in certain areas, but again, we'll save that for the articulation piece. And here we have our gritting teeth expression. Very well done here. And lastly, we have our laughing, happy expression. And without further ado, I think that's going to take us straight into the articulation segment here. So quick jump and let's get straight into it. All right, here we go. So looking at the neck to talk about this first. Now, again, that specific head could have been referencing something. Maybe it's part of the long torso set here to be kind of teasing. I'd have to go back and check. But talking about the neck's articulation, I mean, you're not really getting too much movement out of it. It's on a double ball peg, so that's pretty good. The neck itself, though, doesn't really have any movement, which is unfortunate. But for a small figure, I mean, I guess I can understand. It can kind of move like side to side a little bit, but I don't want to risk anything happen there, so I'm just gonna kind of leave it. But for the most part, I mean, he can look down enough and he can kind of look up just a little bit, but nothing on the level, I think, of SHF. And that just, I guess, varies from figure to figure. But again, bonus points still because it's functioning, it's not breaking on me. So for a third-party product, I'm a little bit more lenient here in this case. Now, here's where we're going to get into a big discussion. This part is going to last a while, guys, so lock in. Now, both of these pegs here for the butterfly joint and the actual arm attachment here for the shoulders are very tight. I let this sit in water 2 different times, hot water for a long time, and neither loosened up, and I'm sure I could apply some type of gel or whatever it is. I have to go back and look through different channels, but there is gel to help kind of loosen joints, but it's very tight. Now I've gotten it to a point where I could at least move it without it breaking, but you hear how tight it is. I hope that the camera can capture that audio. It's so tight, and it's very risky to move the arm up and down. And reasons why is because, say if I put enough pressure, right, and I'm trying to move it, the arm just will pop out of the socket. Now, is that meaning it's breaking? No. It is just saying that if you are too rough with it, you can break it, but it does pop off here. It's not so locked in that it's just going to stay there. And rightfully so, I feel like that's an okay thing here, because with the arm being so tight, I wouldn't want to break this peg here because it is small and kind of, I think, hard to fix in my opinion, especially if you are somebody who doesn't traditionally fix figures. So I can just peg that back in with no problem, and it's good to go. And you know, you've seen people do this in certain review videos. It does hold. Like, I don't have a problem with the posability of it necessarily. It's just that it's super tight, and when it's super tight, it's a very thin line between if you want to take it, like let's say if you really want to push the articulation and you're like, I feel like it should be able to, and then you do it and it breaks on you, and it's kind of just that battle of, should I do it? Nah, just leave it. But the actual articulation of it itself is fine. I mean, the butterfly joint functions pretty decently when it's not super wound up and tight. However, the right arm is more or less fine. It is tight a little bit, but it's not super tight that it's like creaking as loud as this one and giving me a little frustration moving it. Now, the other thing here, okay, this part, this forearm piece, that one, you've seen people, it does pop off. It does require a little bit of force sometimes. I think this one I've noticed pops up just a tad easier, but they don't pop off so easily that it's a problem in my opinion. And it might be a little bit better that it does pop off just because these hand pegs are pretty dang tiny, and you might want to just be able to have the grip. Oops. Yep. You might want to have the grip of being able to push it in like that without the whole arm being there. And if this does fall off, all you got to do is match the piece, and I'm doing this on camera, so I'm trying to make sure I'm matching it. Match it up like that, plug it back into the hole, push, and it snaps right in. Not that big of an issue, but if that is something you care about, annoys you, whatever, I guess that could be a reason not to buy the figure. However, in my opinion, throughout the day I've had this figure so far and have messed with it, it's not that detrimental to playability and posability. Now, ab crunch. Now this right here, it's not the best. And similarly, it's like the Spider-Man figures. I'm sure there's probably a couple of Dragon Ball figures I could reference, but off the top of my head, this reminds me more of the Spider-Man figures. However, I believe the Spider-Man figures have kind of like a ball peg hinge or something right there, something like that, where it lifts up and it can actually give them more range and articulation. But they don't have that here on this figure, so it's kind of a little less articulated in a way. And obviously this is meant to attach to the other piece, so the articulation here is not necessarily going to be the best, but it does articulate decently well when it's not popping out the socket so much. There is a little bit of a gap there. Don't know if you care about that or not, but you know, again, like most figures, you also got to take advantage of the crotch area if you want to use some extra articulation, but for the most part, it's standard. Now you did just see that drop right there. That is going to be another segment here we talk about. So in the first hour I played with this, no problems. Second hour, no problems. Skip like 5, 6, 7 hours later, I do start noticing that it's a little loose there. Now, is it so loose that it can't hold any poses? No, it's still going to hold the pose, but it does have that rattle. And it's kind of like the boy from the future Trunks, but not as bad. So how do you fix that? I again think it's going to be some of this the opposite effect of applying either some type of gel or whatever it is, I forget, to tighten it up in there. Or if you want to do the traditional method people do, I see, is stuff paper in areas so it's a little bit more tightness and firm there. But again, everybody's got their methods. Somebody will pop up with something, but that is an issue I am noticing. So if you care about that, it is a problem. But again, it still holds poses relatively well. And so far, I mean, I don't know. It's a preference thing for most people. I do have a few actual SHFs with this problem, but still, I've used them in photos, videos, and just get through it. You know, they annoy me, but not enough to say it's a broken figure. Now, when it starts getting to the point where it can't hold poses and whatnot, then we've got a problem, because obviously you've paid a lot of money for it and you're expecting to be able to utilize this figure. And you don't want it to just be a pose and done, one pose and done figure. You know what I mean? So totally understand. But yeah, besides that, I mean, it articulates fairly well. Yeah, I don't know what else to say much more besides that. Again, it's fairly well done. It's just those tiny little issues that can occur. And I'm not sure if this is just because maybe it's like the first wave of them, right? I don't know how many more he's producing. I don't know if there's constant, you know, looking for feedback and maybe some changes are happening as more get sent out. I do not know. We shall see. Anyways, moving on to the legs. I will say the legs have a similar kind of loose problem. It feels really loose here, and you can see it's like very, not wobbly, but they do hold the pose. Don't really have a problem, you know, sticking them in a pose position or whatever. I haven't had the issue where people have it popping out here at this segment. It hasn't happened to me. At most, the leg pops off if I pull too hard. That's really about it. Pops right back in. Articulation here at the knee, pretty good. Kind of, I guess you could say that's like a 90-degree angle, but it's not the most articulation, right? Legs can do a split, and I'm looking at this on the camera. I probably should look at it actually in my hands to make sure I'm not breaking anything, but he can do a pretty good split both ways, I think. Let me see. Pretty decently for both ways. And I'm kind of just rushing it a little bit so we can save some time, but you know, it's a pretty good figure, man. I don't know what else to say. It's like, for a third party, it's got me impressed, because I mean, third parties, when you think of a third party figure, you don't think of quality like this. This is like literally if he could make Dragon Ball figures without the need to be under different names and whatnot and could officially license them. I mean, just think about how good the figures would be, and then, you know, like having the ability to really do this without having to be kind of secretive about it. It would be pretty impressive, man. Gripes I do have with this lower section. I do wish that these were articulated here, kind of at the calf, you know, low ankle area, because I don't know. I don't think the Super Buu had it, but I think it would just help with mobility here, because it is pretty tight. It's already small. It would be nice to just have more movement here in this area for when you're articulating and doing your posing, but that's just me. And for the actual feet here, they do articulate decently well. The toe hinge works. He just can't really go up that much. The actual swivel here is relatively okay. Again, I would just like there to be more movement here so you can actually pair that well with the actual articulation underneath it. Now, overall, this figure is just, it's good. I think it's well worth your money at this point. Because unless Tamashii pops up randomly tomorrow morning and says, hey, we're gonna make a Kid Buu figure before we even do Buu Saga stuff, it's well worth it, because unless you really are a Dragon Stars fan, that's really all you have, is a Dragon Stars. And unless you don't like posable figures, you've got Funkos and statues. That's it. But if you're looking for something like this to tide you over, it's well worth it. And hopefully the prices haven't started fluctuating, but if they haven't, go for it. AliExpress has sales all the time, discounts for new members, etc. So, I mean, you'd probably be getting it cheaper than some other people, including myself. But additionally, let me grab some other figures between Demonigal Fit, Beast Deities, as well as Tamashii, just to kind of compare the height here, and then we'll kind of get into the final segment of the video. All right, so as you can see in terms of his height, it is, he's a relatively mid-sized guy. I mean, he probably could be a little shorter, but compared to like Super Buu as well as Majin Buu, I guess good. I don't know what his official title is now, just Majin Buu. I guess he's pretty average and decent in the size compared to some of the other characters like Goku's, Vegetas, whatever. I mean, he could probably be a little smaller, but I think that for now this is fine. And again, I may have to just go back and check in the anime or manga and see if that's actually accurate, but still looks pretty good. And from the photos I've seen of people already posing this guy with, different figures, he looks great. So I'm really not complaining about height. But yeah, it's just kind of give you a good representation of what it looks like across the board. And yeah, it's going to take us into our final segment here. So I'm just going to leave us up so we can talk. Honestly, we've got Tonsen with his Future Trunks figures actually releasing right now, which is pretty insane. I know a lot of people have been very stressed this last almost a year waiting for this figure, but I think you really have to understand that he did really well for his first official figure. I think he did really well, and he did keep on providing updates. He's kept you updated. I think he has earned a little bit of trust here that he can perform the task. He's really not, and when I say he, I'm referring to Tonsen. He's really not like stringed you along. He's really kept you along the journey to kind of keep you updated and show like what he's doing, how it's being done, etc., etc., etc. Yes, third parties are always going to have these delays. That's just inevitable. I have really not seen a lot of third parties stick to any date that they say. Like even the Black Hole Toys stuff, I don't know. It's possible that they could stick to that date, but it's usually not common. It means that they've already been working on it prior. And I mean, that's what most of the studios I think should be doing, is if you're going to commit to it, do it, then announce it so you have an actual kind of time frame you're going to stick to. Now, he announced these Kid Buus like way earlier than I think needed, and yeah, it just caused a lot of stress. Now the Trunks coming out definitely caused more stress because people are wondering, how did you do both of these figures and now this Trunks is out of here out of nowhere? Realistically, that Trunks has been kind of in his mind and being worked on behind the scenes for like almost 2 years now or something. So just you gotta fact check your stuff, that's all I'm saying. But all in all, I think that this is like a good step forward to show like what he's got in the bag. Right now, he's got another Future Trunks variant, which is more along the movie look, with the, I think, the ripped jacket and more spikier Super Saiyan hair, as well as a Goku that's based off of a manga cover, if I remember correctly, which I think just got a new image preview the other day, so you can go look that up either in the community post or on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of things coming. I hope he's still working on those Goku sculpts as well as the Bardock's head sculpts that he showed a long time ago. But anyways, this review has gone on long enough. It's been burstzgyt. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Look out for more videos. Lots of third-party stuff coming. I've actually got some more third-party products I ordered on the way. So look out for those and look out for other videos. Stay tuned in the community tab because, of course, that's where all the news goes first. And you guys have a good one. Peace.